Hey everyone, this is Fady from Heartbeat Productions, and today is the hot topic, this or this. I had the privilege to own both. This is the Slate ML-1, which is their large diaphragm condenser mic emulator, and this is the Townsend Labs. And they recently, I can't remember when, just a couple years ago or so, they got bought by Universal Audio, and it's another mic emulator. I want to talk about both today, and I want to talk about what do I like about both and what do I not like about both. All right, let's start with the Slate. Slate was, I've had this maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Back when I bought it, it was $1,000. Now I think they dropped their price significantly. I think it's like you can get them for $500 or something like that, which is significantly cheaper. What do I like about the Slate one? It's really easy to use. I obviously like the idea of in post I can change what mic I want it to sound like. But then also Slate didn't only do it that way. They did it where you choose what preamp you are passing that mic through, and then you're also choosing what mic. So if I want it to sound like I'm going through a Neve 1073, and then I'm also using a U47. So then I could choose that I put the Neve 1073 and then choose the U47 as my mic. So I'm kind of like choosing almost like my chain, not just what mic I am using. It's very transparent. Matter of fact, I've actually used it before without any emulations at all. And that's the thing about mic emulators. They designed to be super flat and capture the source exactly as is. So I've had it before where I would set it up on a drum overheads or acoustic guitar or something, and I actually won't even use any emulations at all because I just like how flat and it captured my source exactly as it is, and now I don't want any coloring to that source. So that's great about it. Now it's significantly cheaper, and then there's several options of what mics you choose from. Like you got the U47 and the U80, the C12, and you got the Sony 800, and there's a lot of options. And then now they also have some ribbon options in it, which is kind of crazy. Are they super accurate? No, they're not. I've actually used both, and I have a Neumann in here, an 87, an 89, and then I tried their Neumann emulation. It doesn't sound exactly the same. Is it close? It is pretty close, but it's not exactly the same. But obviously, $500 versus, I think it was like $3,500 for the Neumann, and then to pass it through, I have a 1073 by Chandler LTD one, and then I think it's like $2,500. So that's like $3,500 and $2,500. You got yourself a lot of money versus $500. So that's kind of one of the things I like about it. If I'm tracking lead vocals, I use my Neumanns or I use my other more expensive mics. But if I have a big session, I have a lot of things going on, then sure, I'll throw this in on something on drum overheads or an extra acoustic that I have that I want a condenser for or something like that. What I don't like about this, and this is actually one of my big disappointments with the Slate mic, no polar patterns. That's kind of like a big shock, honestly. Because when you choose a mic, you should, especially condenser mics, you have to be able to control what pattern are you going to run that mic. Is it an Omni? You want to use it as a room mic, so you want it to have 360. Or are you using cardioid for vocals, for example? Or you want to use super cardioid because I want a lot less rejections from the side, or I want to use figure 8. Or, the cost of the mic actually changes by how many patterns that mic offers. It's the reason why, like the Neumann U87 is one of the most commonly used mics, or people love that mic a lot because it has, I think, 6 or 7 patterns in it, but then some other mics only have like 1 or 2. So it's very disappointing that the Slate doesn't have an option to switch polar patterns on it. And that's one of the things I don't like about this mic. It's the fact that you can't do this. Aside from this, honestly, altogether, is it a worth it mic for people to buy and start with? I think for $500, especially if you don't have a nice mic pre, this is kind of some of the best investments you can do. One other thing is when you run these, it used to be you have to buy the Slate Preamp to get accurate simulation, so which was like another $250, and then or you use their actual interface because it has their preamps in it. And then recently, I've actually personally talked with some of their tech team, and then I asked us like, hey, I have a universal audio interface. Do I still need, and I actually still own their preamp, do I need to run the preamp mic into that preamp and run a line out to a line in into my universal audio interface? And they actually said you don't, as long as you're using a very, very good, clean mic pre with no coloring, because in the universal audio I can run it as just as a mic, put a phantom power on it, and just put some gain up, or I can also use their Unison technology, which allows me to choose what mic pre's I want and all these different things in it. Then it would actually ruin the emulation in here. Or they said don't run it through your like 4710, or don't run it through your Neve 1073 pre's, run it just straight in, and then that would get you what you want. But you make sure that you have a good preamp for this. If you don't, or a clean one, super clean gain, doesn't have any coloring or any effects or any distortion, obviously a really clean one. If you don't, then I would recommend that you buy that little, like $200, $250, something like that, pre, and then you pass that mic into that pre and then a line out into your interface. And it goes line in into your interface, so it has no coloration or whatever. And now let's switch to the second one, the Townsend. Absolutely love that mic. I was actually blown away when I first got it. I got it 2 years ago from Alto Music, and I got a good deal on it. I was buying a whole bunch of stuff, and I got this as well. And then I gave it a shot, and I was blown away at the quality. So this one is obviously a whole lot more expensive. I think it's $1,500 now. When I bought it, they used to be like $1,800 or $1,700, $1,799, and now I think it's $1,499 if you buy it. The quality of this mic is absolutely amazing. I was blown away at all the features. So on the back here, you have your gain, which you can adjust to 0, -10, and -20. And then you also have a button here is called calibration. And then you have on, the mic is on, or the mic is calibrating. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. The technology behind this is the idea of, if I want to emulate a mic, I'm singing through the front capsule of the mic. Okay, where is that mic sitting? It actually changes the tone of the mic, which is true. If you grab your 87 and go to your vocal booth, and in a very very sound sealed and super dark and dim room, then it will sound different than you put that mic in a big room with a lot of echo in it. It's not going to sound the same. So when they developed the technology of this, they said, okay, we got to make sure we also capture the room, and we apply the algorithms not just to the front capsule, but also to the room. So for them to do this, they had this really cool technology where now that mic comes out as a stereo. You record it as a stereo, which is a pro and a con. A pro because you get to capture now front capsule and back capsule. So they're both are recording at the same time. But the disadvantage is it takes 2 channels on your interfaces, especially if you don't have a big one or you don't have a lot of inputs. That comes with a price. But then what it happens is, if you're tracking like a vocal, for example, so you're going to sing into the front capsule, the back capsule is just capturing the room. Whether you put a shield in here or not or whatever, it's still going to capture whatever environment is around that mic. And then in the software in post, it actually applies a lot of the algorithms on it to make sure that when it emulates that mic, it emulates it more accurate. This is the one thing, that's one of the advantages I like about it. Second, actually it does polar patterns, which is a Slate mic don't. And maybe I'm hoping one day they'll actually release one with the option of doing polar patterns. So if I choose a Neumann U87 as my mic that I'm trying to emulate, it will also give me the option to do which pattern are you using for the 87. Am I using a cardioid, supercardioid, figure 8, omni, whatever. So you get to choose your pattern. And you also get to choose the different features of proximity, how close were you or how far you were from the mic. You could do that in post. And then axis, was I singing on axis or was I singing off axis, and how far off axis was I singing? And then you can adjust that in post, where you have that one annoying singer that they sing, but they're holding their iPad to remember the lyrics and they're singing like this the whole time. So you can kind of correct that in post a little bit. And it also changes tone as well. So like if you're tracking guitar or something and the guitar player moved a little bit this way, got off axis, you can potentially correct that in post. Love that about this feature, and I love how it does. Also, when you are recording front and back, it has an option where it would actually, you can choose a mic shield in post, and then it will get rid of a lot of the noises in the room, because this is capturing the noise in the room and it's making active noise cancellation. But I gotta say, I was not a big happy of this. I tried it, did not like it. It actually changed the tone of the singer significantly, where it was like, no, it's not worth it to me. I would rather actually try to record in a cleaner room, or put an actual real mic shield around it to protect it from room noises and stuff like that, and echoes and reverbs and stuff like that. Now it takes me to the other thing that I absolutely love about this mic. So if you operate, so this is the front of the mic. If you operate the mic this way and you're singing into this, so the front capsule is the one you're going to be using, and the back capsule is only for capturing the room and stuff like that. If you turn the mic this way, and they have here a little sign that has, it looks like stereo, and basically you turn the mic this way, and in the plugin you tell it that I'm going to use this mic for stereo recording. Now this becomes a capsule and this becomes a capsule, and they are both recording, and not only for like, now it's not doing the room thing, it's actually a stereo mic. It's almost like I got two of the Slate mics and put them next to each other. Why is that helpful? Because I've experimented with this a lot, where I place it as an overhead mic on the top of the drums right in the center, and this became a stereo mic versus a mono mic, and then captured both sides. And then in post you can choose that they are matching stereo pair, like both are U87s or C12s or 800 or whatever, and then you can also say I want a mismatching pair. I want the left side to be U87 and then the right side to be a C12, which normally you wouldn't do that with drums, you want matching, but it's just cool when I track acoustic guitar, and I would use it in the stereo mode that way, and then track acoustic, and then I would actually use a mismatching pair. That way it widens the stereo image a little bit, because the tone is a little different from the right side and a little different from the left side, which makes it sound a little wider. And then also in post, you can choose when you are in stereo mode, I think it's called 180, so it's called Sphere 180, the plugin, the name, because they have two plugins. One is for the mono, if you're going to use it only for a single channel, and then it's called the Sphere, and then the other one is called Sphere 180 if you're going to use both sides. You can adjust in that plugin in the 180 the stereo width of the instrument. That's something I've actually experimented with a lot on the grand piano back there, where I would set this right in the center, and I would move it around until I kind of find like my best tone, which is what I'm liking the most. And then in post, I can tell it where both capsules are right here, left and right, or they were like this, or like this, or like this. And then you can actually hear it as the stereo image is getting wider or getting narrower, which is very impressive. I was kind of like, whoa, that's really cool. It's helpful for tracking. I had a session the other day for live cello. So I use my Neumann as my main mic to capture like the close-up tone of the Neumann. I'm sorry, the close-up tone of the cello, and I put it right in front of the hole of the cello. And then as I moved maybe 3 feet out or 4 feet out, and I placed this as my second mic in stereo mode to be like the room sound around the cello. And then in post, now I went to the stereo width, and I actually made it worked for what I was trying to get out of it. I made the stereo width a whole lot wider to get like the far left and right sounds of that cello, made it big and wide. And then in mixing, I had the Neumann dead center, and those kind of more like spread out on the sides, which kind of worked out really well. So I love that about this mic. The other thing I like about this mic, if you have, it's really hard to use this mic if you don't have a UA interface. Well, I guess I like and I dislike it. I like it because I do have a UA interface, but if you don't have a UA interface, you won't really like it. So the UA interface, their console, it has the plugin in the console. So when you're monitoring back to an artist while they're recording, let's say a singer, you can actually slap that plugin on the console, and then you can monitor in the artist's ears that this is, you're singing through a C12, or you're singing through a Sony 800, or you're singing through a 47. So they get to hear it, how it's going to be later, and then they just like it that more. You get a lot cleaner and better sound. And that's all because it's through the UAD console, their DSP plugins, and there's zero latency. And then you can choose, is that being printed before it goes to your DAW, or that's only for monitoring purposes, and then later on in your DAW, you'll just put the plugin back on the channel, and then you get to choose what you want to do with it. But if you don't have a UAD interface, then that's going to be a problem, because you're probably going to monitor back to them just the front, and you're not going to monitor back to them the rear channel, and then they're going to only hear like the flat response of that mic for whatever it is, and there's no coloration or cleaning up of the sound happening at that point, and then you're going to do it in post. So that's a pro and a con for that. The plugin is for free. If you have the mic, you don't have to pay for the plugin. The plugin comes with it, and it works great. I love it, and it carries the same principle as the Slate. If you're going to use this, you can't run this into like a Neve 1073 or a 4710 or an Avalon mic pre or something like that. You want to run it through a very clean mic preamp that has no coloration or whatsoever. You just have phantom power, and then you have super clean gain. And then, so normally what I do a lot is I run the mic through my UAD console, and then I would grab a line out of the UAD console after that mic being simulated using their plugin, and then I would patch that through my patch bay into my compressors and my EQ and my whatever effects or whatever processing that I want to do to that vocal chain, so that way I still get the analog quality from all these things, but you have to do it post the plugin, not pre the plugin. Or you just record into your DAW, and I do the same with the Slate. You record into your DAW, simulate your plugin to whatever you want it to sound like, and then print that, and then now take that audio file of the final take of the audio, and then take that and pass it on through your analog processing chain however you want to. So anyways, this is my take on both mics. Obviously this is 3 times the price of this one, but you get kind of stereo mic here, you get only a mono mic here, you get a lot more features, and you get a lot more of the polar patterns and stereo width and all that kind of stuff that you don't get on this one. So it's a matter of budget at that point and how much you're willing to spend to get it. In another video, I'm gonna play back some samples of both that I've created out of my grand piano and out of acoustic guitar. And it's just gonna show you guys the difference. One thing I noticed on this one, if you are selecting, for example, a U87, and then you switch to the C12 or switch to the Sony 800, the difference is very subtle, which is kind of like in real life, the difference between a U87 and an 800 is actually not subtle. They're pretty different. But I've noticed the difference are more subtle here. But then the difference on the Slate are actually exaggerated. Like it's a little bit too much of a difference here. It's like, I don't know if I like this. It's like way too much difference between both plugins. But anyways, that's kind of like my take on it. I'll make a second video talking about different samples and then showing you guys how I'm using the plugins. I'll screen record my computer, show you guys how I'm using the plugins, and then just play the audio files and then have you guys hear to the audio files and just decide for yourself which one you like the most. And I hope that helps you in your decision whether it's worth it or not buying mic that have emulating features in them. And make sure you subscribe and follow and stay updated with the next coming videos. See you guys.